Peace and blessings, family. It's me, Coach 67 Sports TV. Shout out to the awesome and amazing LDBC, Lions Den Boston community. Shout out to Anthony O'Neill and the Impact Creative Society. Last, but definitely not least, shout out to the greatest university in the world, the Southern University, home of the mighty Jaguars. In this particular video, I'm going to talk about breaking news in terms of the transfer portal for Southern University. I'm not going to waste any time. Alcorn State, breaking news, Alcorn State punter / kicker Kenny Lee Pham has committed to Southern University. His hometown is Port Arthur, Texas. It's going to be imperative that Southern University replaces Ruben Beauplance. I think Ruben Beauplance is the best punter I've seen at Southern University since Matt Bushart. Ruben Beauplance, he did an excellent job this past season. In many instances when Southern University's offense was struggling and they could not move the football and they were pinned deep in their own territory, Ruben Beauplance would punt the ball and he would flip the field in terms of from a field position standpoint. If Southern had poor field position and they couldn't move the ball offensively, Ruben Beauplance would come take the field, he would punt the ball, and Southern would go from having poor field position to the opposing team would have opposing field position. That's how good a job Ruben Beauplance did this past season, and it's going to be imperative that Southern can find an adequate replacement for him. It's Kenny Lee Pham from Alcorn State. Is he the answer to that particular problem or issue? Who knows? You know, it's just kind of interesting whether he's going to be the answer, because in many instances, when players come in from high school, if they transfer from a PWI, from a Power 5, from a JC, or even from another SWAC school, a lot of times you don't know what you're going to get. So it's going to be interesting to see if Kenny Lee Pham, if he could replace Ruben Beauplance, Goldenfoot. Next, we're going to get into Southern University's top 5. Before we get into it, happy Independence Day to all those individuals that celebrated. Now, all those individuals that were vocal in the comment section, I heard you, so I adjusted my Southern University top 5 defensive ends list. First, we're going to start with a couple honorable mention slots. First honorable mention slot is Joe Sykes. Now, in the previous live stream I did in terms of Southern University defensive ends, a lot of individuals was down on Joe Sykes. Joe Sykes, he transferred from West Virginia, where, he was cool with Adam Pac-Man Jones. They played at West Virginia together. Evidently, he wasn't satisfied with the amount of playing time he was getting in West Virginia. He transferred to Southern. Immediately became an instant NFL prospect. I think to a lot of people, Joe Sykes underachieved. And I think the reason why he underachieved, because he struggled. Anytime he played against bigger, stronger offensive linemen, Joe Sykes struggled. And it kind of showed in the Bayou Classic, his long season at Southern. He struggled against the huge offensive tackles for Grambling State. So I think that's the thing. Joe Sykes, he struggled anytime he played against bigger, stronger offensive linemen. Next individual on Southern University top 5 is Kevin Mack. He's another individual he transferred from a PWI, Power 5 school. He another one. The instance he stepped foot on Southern University's campus, he became an immediate NFL prospect. And, he had a solid season, his long season at Southern also. I think he was decent. I think, Joe Sykes and Kevin Mack, I think they kind of cautionary tales in terms of, they had decent seasons, but, when players come in from PWIs or Power 5s with a lot of hype surrounding them, I think you kind of have to be cautious, of those particular individuals. And, I think Kevin Mack, I think he was solid. I don't think he was a world beater like he was advertised to be. Same thing with Joe Sykes. So it's just going to be kind of interesting for any other individual that's transferred from PWIs or Power 5s, how well they do when they actually come to Southern, because I know a lot of times individuals think they can come to Southern, walk right into the starting lineup and dominate the SWAC and then become an NFL prospect immediately. Those two individuals, are cautionary tales in terms of, hey, things might not always go the way you anticipate. Now, this way, the things kind of shake up a little bit, because saying this individual was so vocal in the comments section. I heard the individuals in the comments, and they made some good points, and it swayed me a little bit. So in terms of it being a top five, it's no longer a top five; it's a top six at this point. Next individual on my Southern University top five, he's kind of like 5B. This individual, he went to Donaldsonville High School. He was the man at Donaldsonville High School. Even in high school, he was kind of overshadowed by, players that had, that were bigger stars, and, he came to Southern University. He was on a kick return team for a few years, and then eventually he became a starter his senior year. This individual was Michael Landry. Michael Landry, unlike a lot of these other individuals on the list, some of these other individuals are good pass rushers. Michael Landry was more of a run stopper. And unlike Joe Sykes on this list, Michael Landry, he thrived when he played against bigger, stronger offensive linemen because he was so strong. When I would pass through the Felton G. Clark Activity Center, and you would look at all the records of the players, like, posted on the wall, like, Michael Landry had a lot of records in terms of, power clean and jerk, squats. So he was strong, and that's why he was able to better deal with, bigger, stronger offensive linemen than some of these other individuals on the list. So, Michael Landry, he did an excellent job. He ended up making all SWAC. Then he left Southern, and he made first team out NFL Europe. He went to training camp with the Kansas City Chiefs. He didn't make the team, but he didn't make the 53-man roster for the Chiefs. He didn't make the practice squad either, but Michael Landry did an excellent job at the last year Southern. So he's in the 5B slot. Another individual that went to Donaldsonville High School. He played middle linebacker, Donaldsonville High. He went to school in Texas, then he eventually transferred to Nicholls State. Then he came to Southern. Next individual on the list is Taj Brown. Taj Brown, in the 2 years at Southern, he made second team all SWAC as a nose guard. And then this past season, he made second team all SWAC as a defensive end. Even though Kelby Givens was the best pass rusher this past season, Taj Brown was far more of a disruptive force. He made things happen. He was very aggressive. I think the only downside to him this past season is Taj Brown was often injury prone. But outside of that, Taj Brown had an excellent senior season at Southern University. So those two individuals, they fill out at 5B and 5A on this particular list. The next individual on this particular list that individuals were clamoring about, Gillis Wilson. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of overlooked Gillis Wilson on this particular list. He made all SWAC also. He was a real good defensive end. I think the thing with me that kind of had, in my mind, pushed Gillis Wilson down a little bit, Gillis Wilson was overshadowed by DeMarcus Miller and Channing Water on that particular defense. Even though Gillis Wilson was a dog, he was a solid player. When you're playing with Channing Warner and DeMarcus Miller, you kind of get overshadowed when you got two stars, one on the defensive line, one at linebacker at that magnitude. You kind of have a tendency to get overshadowed. And that was kind of the main reason why I overlooked Gillis Wilson. But Gillis Wilson was rock solid as a defensive end for Southern University. So he fills out at the number 4 spot. The number 3 spot on this particular list is Kendall Shello. Kendall Shello, another one, he was solid for a couple seasons at Southern University defensive end. He was a decent run stopper. He was a good pass rusher. He went on to make all SWAC, and then he went to the NFL training camp with the Indianapolis Colts. He another one too. He didn't make the 53-man roster. He didn't make the practice squad, but Kendall Shello was a dog at Southern University, and he, even in his time, in the training camp for the Indianapolis Colts, he was a force there. He just didn't have enough just to make the 53-man roster, but Kendall Shello was a beast. He was opposite another individual that's towards the top of the list, but that's Kendall Shello coming in at number 3 spot. Number 2 spot is a controversial pick for me, even though, he had a single season record at Southern for sacks. I think he's more of a linebacker. I really don't think he's a legitimate defensive end. But number 2 on this list is Jordan Lewis. Jordan Lewis, he was another one. He was a beast at Southern University. I think he excelled more his junior year because he was more in a hybrid role. I think he's more so a 3-4 outside linebacker than a legitimate defensive end. I think he's a blitzing linebacker. I think he's an excellent pass rusher. I don't think he's an every down defensive end in a 4-man front. I think that's the reason why he struggled his senior year. He had an excellent junior year at Southern. He struggled his senior season. Teams didn't slide protection his way. They didn't double him. They didn't chip him. Basically, I think offensive lineman was more prepared for him. They weren't caught off guard by him just only pass rushing on third downs and blitzing on first and second downs. I think they were really kind of prepared for him. And I think that's the reason why he struggled his senior year. But even with that being said, Jourdan Lewis was a dog. His junior year, he set records at Southern University and just, on the FCS level in general, And number one individual at the top of this list is Joe Williams. Joe Williams was a dog at Southern University. He was, all SWAC. He was a perennial disruptive force for Southern University. It's a defensive end. Kind of like Jourdan Lewis, he had a phenomenal junior year. I think the reason why he struggled his senior year at Southern University was because, unlike Jourdan Lewis, who really was kind of playing out of position, teams really didn't game plan for Jourdan Lewis. Offensive tackles just were more prepared for him. The fact that he wasn't blitzing and he wasn't just rushing on third downs. Since Kendall Shuttle had graduated by that point, Joe Williams kind of was like the long dog his senior year. And teams, they doubled him more. They chipped on him. They slid protection his way. So it made things extremely difficult for him his senior year. But in my estimation, I think he's the top defensive end I've ever seen come through Southern University, the Pete Richardson era to now. So that concludes my Southern University top 5 defensive ends. The next list I'm coming out with is Southern University top 5 linebackers. It's going to be interesting, this list. Just like the defensive ends list, individuals were vocal about Gillis Wilson should be on this list. Let's see who is going to get omitted and should be on my top 5 linebackers list. Hopefully y'all, everybody out there that celebrates is enjoying their Independence Day. If you have not done so already, go check out my brother C. Wells, Swag Talk. I was the guest host yesterday. It premiered today. So if you have not done so already, go check out Swag Talk. We had an excellent conversation about Southern University football. Also, check out my brother, Jared 11 Green, Southern Baller Show. We didn't have a show this past weekend, but go check him out. And last but certainly not least, check out my brother Brent Fox on his show. It's just me starring Brent Fox. Check out all these content creators that I rock with. I enjoy the content. Hopefully y'all enjoying y'all Independence Day. Y'all have a blessed and phenomenal day. I'll catch y'all on the rebound. Love, peace, and blessings.